So I want you to picture yourself on a wooden sailing ship. It's the year 1697.
Right, way back.
Way back. You're part of this Dutch expedition led by an explorer named Willem de Vlaming, and you've just dropped anchor off the coast of Western Australia.
A completely unmapped world for them at the time.
Exactly. So you
Yeah.
take a smaller boat up this waterway that nobody from your part of the world has ever seen. And as you round a bend, you see something gliding across the water that it stops you dead in your tracks.
A swan.
A swan, but its feathers are pitch black.
Which, to a modern listener, seeing a black swan might just be a neat bit of trivia, like, oh, cool bird.
Right.
But to a 17th century European, that single bird wasn't just a surprise. It was the total collapse of a bedrock, undeniable fact of reality.
Because for literally centuries up to that point, European society operated on the absolute, unshakable certainty that all swans were white. I mean, it wasn't a theory.
No, it wasn't an educated guess.
It was a foundational truth, woven into their language, their logic. Every swan anyone had ever recorded in human memory was white.
So the idea of a black one was it was synonymous with the impossible.
And then one Dutch explorer sails up one river, makes one observation, and centuries of established truth just evaporate in an instant.
It's wild. And that intense, disorienting moment of realization when you figure out that your mental map of the world is completely disconnected from the actual world, that is the core of what we are analyzing today.
Yes. The mission for this deep dive is to unpack a really dense, provocative stack of notes on Nassim Nicholas Taleb's work, The Black Swan, the impact of the highly improbable.
And we should clarify, this isn't merely to give you a quick summary of an economics book.
No, not at all.
The material here is designed to fundamentally dismantle and then rebuild how you view risk, how you evaluate certainty.
And really how you plan for your own future, because the stakes presented in these sources are huge.
They really are. The central argument is that human beings walk around with this profound systemic overestimation of our own knowledge.
We think we know what's going on.
Right. We think we understand how the world works, so we drastically underestimate the probability of unexpected, paradigm-shattering events.
Okay, let's unpack this a bit. Going back to our Dutch explorer for a second, that shattered certainty perfectly illustrates a philosophical dilemma. It was first outlined by David Hume.
The problem of induction.
The problem of induction, right, which is basically, well, it points out a fatal flaw in human logic.
Yeah, we rely on past observations to guarantee future outcomes. But logically, no amount of historical data can definitively prove what's going to happen tomorrow.
Like, you can observe 10,000 or even 10 million white swans over centuries.
Right.
But that massive mountain of data still does not prove that the very next swan you see won't be black.
Exactly. Just because you haven't seen a piece of evidence yet doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Your past experience is actually a shockingly poor guide for predicting future outliers.
Which is such a hard pill to swallow. But that is the foundation of Taleb's concept. He takes this historical metaphor, the black swan, and applies it to the most consequential events in human history.
In a true black swan event, as defined in our sources, it requires 3 specific traits.
Okay, let's hear them.
First, it's an extreme outlier. Like, absolutely nothing in the past convincingly pointed to its possibility. Second, it carries a massive world-altering impact.
So unpredictability and massive impact. But I mean, those 2 traits could describe a lot of chaotic surprises, right?
Yeah.
What makes a black swan distinctly dangerous?
It's the third trait, and it's entirely psychological. Retrospective predictability.
Yeah, what does that mean?
It means after the event happens, human beings simply cannot accept that it was random. We immediately look backward, we cherry-pick data, and we invent an explanation that makes the event appear completely inevitable.
Oh, wow. So we convince ourselves we should have seen it coming.
Exactly. We patch the hole in our worldview so we don't have to face how little we actually know.
That is so true. And it leads us directly to an analogy in the notes that I haven't been able to stop thinking about.
The turkey illusion.
Turkey illusion, so good. Walk us through it.
The mechanics of it are just devastating. So imagine a turkey living on a farm. On day 1, the farmer comes out and feeds it. The turkey might be a little wary,
Sure, keeping its distance.
Right. But then day 2 happens and the farmer feeds it again. And this continues for 1,000 days.
So the turkey is basically building this really robust data set.
Precisely. From the turkey's perspective, the farmer is a benevolent provider. Every single day of evidence reinforces that specific worldview.
The turkey's confidence is just going up and up.
It peaks on day 1,000. The data is overwhelmingly consistent. Everything is safe.
Until...
Then comes day 1001, which, unfortunately, happens to be the Wednesday before Thanksgiving.
Oh, no.
Yeah. The farmer approaches, but this time he slaughters the turkey. And if you think about the nature of those 1,000 days of historical evidence...
They weren't just useless for predicting the future. They were actively misleading.
Yes. They created a false sense of security that left the turkey completely defenseless.
I want to translate this to human behavior for a moment,
Right.
because it's so easy to laugh at a turkey, right? Like, silly bird.
Right, but we do the exact same thing.
We do. Think about a seemingly stable situation in your own life right now. Maybe it's a long-term relationship or like a highly structured corporate job.
A regular paycheck.
Yeah, you get your paycheck every 2 weeks. You go to the meetings, or you share a nice dinner with your partner every Friday. You accumulate 1,000 days of evidence indicating that everything is perfect and permanent.
I feel totally secure.
And then, on a random Tuesday, you find a layoff notice in your inbox. Or you get a text saying your partner is leaving. You had this mountain of data saying you were safe right up until the second your reality collapsed.
You were the turkey.
You were the turkey.
And the sources argue that on a macro level, society is essentially just a massive flock of turkeys.
A flock of turkeys. I love that.
I mean, if you look at the most consequential events of the modern era, the sudden explosive rise of the internet, the geopolitical shock of the 9/11 attacks, the 2008 financial crisis, none of these were credibly predicted by past data.
They were all day 1001 for humanity.
Exactly.
Which forces us to ask a really difficult question. If history is just littered with these massive, unexpected shocks, why do we keep organizing our societies and our personal lives as if the future is just some smooth, predictable continuation of the past?
We make that mistake because we fundamentally misunderstand the environment we operate in. Taleb draws a sharp distinction between two different domains of randomness. He calls them Mediocristan and Extremistan.
Mediocristan and Extremistan.
Right. And the reason we act like turkeys is that our brains evolved to understand Mediocristan, but our modern world actually operates in Extremistan.
Okay, let's break down Mediocristan first, because I feel like this is where our intuition feels comfortable.
It is. Mediocristan is a domain governed by the normal distribution, so what we commonly know as the bell curve.
Okay, the bell curve.
In this environment, individual events or outliers, they don't meaningfully affect the total picture. Physics usually dictates the rules here. Take human height, for example.
Right, so if you put 1,000 random people into a concert hall, you can calculate their average height pretty easily.
Exactly. Now imagine you find the single tallest human being alive on Earth, and you bring them into that concert hall. Does the average height of that 1,000-person crowd suddenly jump by 10 feet?
No, of course not.
Because the tallest person is still only incrementally taller than the average. The extreme outlier is strictly bounded by biology. The single event cannot shatter the aggregate.
That makes perfect sense. The extremes have hard physical limits. I mean, you aren't going to encounter someone who's 3,000 feet tall.
Right. But Extremistan plays by completely different rules. In Extremistan, inequalities are so vast that one single observation can disproportionately impact the total.
So there are no natural physical bounds.
None. Think about wealth. If you have those same 1,000 random people in the concert hall and you calculate their average net worth, you get a certain number. Then Elon Musk walks into the room.
Oh, the average net worth of that room instantly jumps by hundreds of millions of dollars.
Exactly. That one outlier completely invalidates all the other data points.
It totally skews the average.
And that same mechanism applies to book sales, financial markets, social media influence. Like a single best-selling author might sell 10 million copies, while the average author sells 3,000.
So Extremistan is highly scalable, and the extremes just dominate everything.
Yes.
Okay, I see what the notes are saying here, but I have to push back on this a bit, especially regarding the financial market.
Okay, let's hear it.
I just struggle to accept that an entire global industry missed this distinction. Because the 2008 financial crash is cited as the ultimate black swan, right? But the quantitative analysts building those risk models, they were Ivy League math and physics PhDs. Are we really supposed to believe that the absolute smartest people in the room just didn't understand how math works?
Well, they understood math perfectly. The fatal flaw was that they applied the wrong math to their environment.
The wrong math.
Yeah, they built risk models using Gaussian distributions, the bell curves of Mediocristan. They assumed the financial markets operated like human height, where variations are tightly clustered around a mean and extreme deviations become exponentially less likely.
Oh, wow. So they modeled mortgage defaults thinking the worst-case scenario was physically capped.
Exactly. They calculated that a simultaneous catastrophic collapse of the housing market was a 10 sigma event. According to a bell curve, an event that extremes shouldn't happen even once in the lifespan of the universe.
So to them, it was statistically impossible.
But they were operating in Extremistan, where everything is heavily networked, highly scalable, and capable of compounding failure rapidly. They totally ignored the defining feature of Extremistan. That the most consequential, catastrophic events are exactly the ones that have never happened before.
They relied on the absence of past evidence to guarantee future safety. They built a turkey farm, essentially.
A global trillion-dollar turkey farm.
That is terrifying. Okay, so if the smartest mathematical models can completely fail to predict extremist events, what about our daily intuition?
It's even worse.
The sources suggest that even when we conceptually grasp the idea of a black swan, our cognitive wiring actively works to blind us to the next one. We fall into these psychological mind traps.
Yeah, our brains are basically optimized to evade the realization of how chaotic the world actually is. The first mechanism working against us is confirmation bias.
Right. We don't act like neutral scientists objectively evaluating the world.
Not at all. We form a belief, and then we scan the environment exclusively for data that supports it. If you believe swans are white, you only count the white ones. You walk right past the shadows where the black swan might be hiding.
Which means we are actively participating in our own blindness.
Yes.
But what happens when the black swan actually hits? When the chaos arrives and just ruins our plans?
That triggers the second major trap. The narrative fallacy.
The narrative fallacy.
Human beings are deeply uncomfortable with raw, senseless randomness. We crave causality. So when an unpredictable shock occurs, our brains immediately start working as a narrative spinner.
We want a story.
We look backward at the messy, chaotic debris of the event and selectively piece together a coherent story.
We invented chain of cause and effect that wasn't actually there, just to make the world feel safe and manageable again.
Exactly. We convince ourselves that the signs were obvious. The problem with the narrative fallacy is that it creates false confidence.
Because we think we figured it out.
Right. By convincing ourselves that we figured out the last black swan, we assume we are perfectly prepared for the next one, but we aren't learning the rules of the world. We're just writing fiction.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. That desire for a neat story feeds directly into the trap that I found the most unsettling in the notes. Silent evidence or survivorship bias.
That one is huge.
We have this tendency to calculate the odds of success by exclusively studying the winners. Like, we obsess over the tactics of brilliant, victorious Roman generals.
Completely ignoring the massive cemetery of generals who used the exact same tactics.
Yes, generals who were just as brave but happened to catch a stray arrow. But the dead don't write memoirs.
The silence of the failures profoundly distorts our map of reality. We look at a billionaire dropout and assume dropping out of college is a proven path to immense wealth.
Because we don't see the thousands of college dropouts who are currently bankrupt.
Right?
Think about how this manifests in your daily routine.
Right.
Like scrolling through your social media feed is essentially mainlining silent evidence.
Oh, absolutely.
You are absorbing this highly curated stream of survivors, the successful influencers, the flawless vacations, the booming startups. You are completely shielded from the millions of people who attempted the exact same content strategy or launched similar businesses and quietly failed.
The algorithm only shows you the white swans.
Exactly. It tricks you into believing that success is a simple, predictable formula.
And that false sense of a predictable formula, that's the core of the final mind trap outlined in the text. The ludic fallacy.
Ludic, meaning game.
Right. It comes from the Latin word for game.
Yeah.
This is our dangerous habit of treating real life as if it were a structured casino game or a chess match.
Because in chess, you know all the pieces on the board, you know the exact rules governing how they move, and the risks are entirely contained within that 64-square grid.
But real life in Extremistan does not have known rules. The variables are infinite, and the risks are unbounded. A better analogy for life than chess is Russian roulette.
Oof. Dark, but okay.
Well, if you put a gun to your head, pull the trigger, and hear a click, what have you learned about the underlying risk of the game?
Nothing. You just survived.
The underlying risk hasn't changed at all. but because you survived, your confidence goes up.
That is so dangerous.
The ludic fallacy makes you feel like you are mastering the game, when in reality, you are just enjoying a temporary streak of luck.
So if our own brains are this flawed, if we're trapped in confirmation bias, constantly inventing false narratives, ignoring the vast graveyards of silent evidence, and treating life like a casino, it's no wonder we desperately seek out authority figures to tell us what to do.
We want an expert to hand us the answers.
We want the safety. But the sources offer a pretty harsh critique of how society relies on experts.
They do. The text introduces an archetype called the fragilista.
The fragilista.
This is someone who usually possesses impressive academic credentials, but critically confuses knowing a collection of facts with understanding the mechanics of a complex system.
Why are they so dangerous to follow, though?
Because of the predictor's dilemma. The ecosystem of modern expertise, whether it's financial punditry on television or geopolitical forecasting, it has highly asymmetrical consequences.
Meaning the risks aren't shared equally.
Right. When a fragilista confidently predicts a massive economic downturn and it doesn't happen, they rarely face professional ruin. They just pivot and say the timing was slightly off.
But if they happen to guess correctly,
they are hailed as visionary geniuses. They have everything to gain and very little to lose by spinning confident narratives.
that the people listening to them, the public, who are like moving their retirement savings around based on that confident guess, they shoulder all the actual risk. They can lose everything.
This brings us to a crucial conceptual pivot in the notes. If the experts are guessing and our own brains are flawed, how should we relate to knowledge?
Right, do we just give up?
No, the text introduces a concept from the Italian writer Umberto Eco called the anti-library.
The anti-library. Eco was famous for having a personal library of tens of thousands of books. But the fascinating part is how he viewed the books he hadn't read.
Yeah, most people view a personal library as an ego monument, like it's a physical display of what they already know.
Look how smart I am.
Exactly. But a true empirical skeptic, which is the mindset the sources advocate for, looks at the unread books as the most valuable part of the collection. The anti-library is a constant physical reminder of your own ignorance.
I challenge you to look at your own habits through this lens. When you look at your bookshelf, or even scroll through your backlog of podcast downloads, what is your emotional reaction?
Do you feel a sense of smug satisfaction about how much information you've accumulated?
Or do you feel a healthy, grounding sense of awe at the sheer volume of things you still do not understand?
Cultivating that awe is what the author terms epistemic humility. The goal here isn't to become a hardened cynic who rejects all learning. You don't stop reading.
Right, you don't just throw the books away.
The goal is to deeply value real-world, messy experience over pristine academic theories, and to remain acutely aware of the limits of your own forecasting.
Okay, let's step back and survey the landscape here, because we've established that we live in Extremistan, where the rules of normal math don't protect us.
Yep.
We know our brains actively build blind spots. And we know the confident experts on television are largely playing a game of chance without bearing the consequences.
Sounds bleak.
It does. So how do you actually live your life with this information without retreating into a bunker and panicking?
Well, the ultimate resolution of the Black Swan is profoundly practical rather than nihilistic. You accept that getting better at predicting the unpredictable is a fool's errand.
Stop trying to predict the shocks.
Instead, you focus entirely on building robustness.
Robustness being the mechanical ability to absorb a catastrophic shock without your life falling apart.
Precisely. You restructure your life to survive the negative black swans, and the material gives very concrete mechanisms for this.
Like what?
First, you violently avoid unnecessary debt. Debt is what makes you fragile. It acts as an amplifier for damage when an unexpected shock hits your income.
Okay, avoid debt. Makes sense.
Second, you build redundancy. You don't rely on a single point of failure, whether that's a single client, a single skill set, or a single source of meaning in your life.
Diversify your life.
And third, you maintain liquid cash reserves, because cash is the ultimate hedge against Extremistan. It allows you to pivot when everyone else is forced to panic.
These rules culminate in the grand strategy for navigating Extremistan, which the notes call the barbell strategy.
Right. So if you visualize a physical barbell in a gym, you have heavy weights clustered at the two extreme ends of a metal bar with absolutely nothing in the middle.
Just empty bar in the middle.
The sources suggest this is the optimal way to structure your exposure to risk. You completely avoid the middle.
Why avoid the middle, though? Isn't moderate risk the foundation of traditional planning, like slow and steady?
The middle represents the illusion of safety. It is the moderate risk, moderate reward zone. It feels comfortable, but it is highly fragile to a black swan because it leaves you exposed without offering a life-changing payoff.
So how do we load the two ends of the barbell instead?
On one extreme end, you park the vast majority of your resources, say 85 to 90%. This end is dedicated to hyper-conservative, extreme safety, treasury bonds, cash, comprehensive insurance.
So this end guarantees that no matter what negative black swan hits the economy, you will not be wiped out. You've armored your downside.
Exactly.
And the remaining 10 to 15%.
That goes on the opposite extreme end of the barbell. Extreme risk with mathematically unlimited upside. Venture capital, highly speculative options, backing unproven startups.
I see. Because you only committed a small percentage, if a negative shock wipes this end out, your safe end keeps you alive.
But if one of those speculative bets catches a positive black swan, the returns scale infinitely.
Let's apply this barbell strategy outside of Wall Street because I think it is just as effective for designing a career.
It really is.
Think about the middle of the barbell as climbing the standard corporate ladder in a high-stress, decent-paying job. You feel secure because the path is clear, but a single macroeconomic shift or one corporate merger can wipe out your only income stream overnight. You are incredibly fragile.
The turkey illusion strikes again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So a career barbell looks entirely different. On the extremely safe end, you secure a highly stable, low-stress day job, something that predictably pays the rent, provides health insurance, and doesn't drain your mental energy. You lock down your survival. Then, on the extremely risky end, you dedicate your nights and weekends to something with unbounded Extremistan potential. You write a sci-fi novel, you learn to code an ambitious app, or you start a niche business.
The mechanics of that setup are brilliant. If your novel never gets published, your life doesn't collapse. Your safe day job absorbs the failure.
Yep.
But if your novel happens to become a cultural phenomenon, a positive black swan, the upside completely alters the trajectory of your life.
You cap your potential for ruin while leaving the ceiling for your success entirely open.
By doing this, you transform yourself into the final archetype discussed in the material, the serendipity seeker.
The serendipity seeker.
Stop wasting your cognitive energy trying to perfectly forecast the future. You accept the chaos. You position yourself to effortlessly absorb the worst while remaining constantly highly exposed to the best unexpected opportunities the world might throw at you.
The journey through this material really is a fundamental rewiring of how you see the world.
It really is.
I mean, we started by feeling the shock of that first black swan in 1697. We broke down the problem of induction and realized how easily we become complacent turkeys.
We explored why the scalable, limitless nature of Extremistan breaks our normal math.
And how our own brains use confirmation bias and narrative fallacies to keep us blind. Ultimately, we discovered how to use epistemic humility and the barbell strategy to actually survive the chaos.
It is a profound framework. But as we wrap up, I want to leave you with a concept that expands on these sources in the context of our current reality.
Okay, lay it on us.
We discussed how the 2008 financial crisis was a massive Extremistan event. Look at the trajectory of the world since then. We are aggressively engineering a hyper-connected, deeply digitized, and perfectly integrated global economy.
Supply chains, communication, financial markets, everything is instantly dependent on everything else.
By connecting every system so tightly, we are essentially trying to engineer out all the small, localized shocks. But based on everything we've explored today, we have to ask, by eliminating the small fires, are we inadvertently ensuring that the next black swan won't be a regional crisis?
Wait.
Are we, in our desperate pursuit of efficiency and predictability, building one single, giant, inescapable, hyper-fragile system?
That is a staggering thought. A globally synchronized flock of turkeys, all waiting for day 1001.
Exactly.
It highlights exactly why you need to evaluate your own position right now. Where are the hidden fragilities in your routine? Where are you carrying unnecessary debt? And where are you trusting a false sense of certainty?
It might be the perfect time to start building your own barbell.
Because your certainty is just waiting for that one unexpected observation to shatter it. The black swan is out there. The only question is whether you'll be ready when it lands. Until next time, keep diving deep.